Good evening and welcome to the Ben's Jewelers Workshop. This episode shows us a little bit more about how to oil and grease the Cuckoo Clock. We have a number of styles of Cuckoo Clocks, 8-day clocks and single-day clocks, clocks with music boxes and clocks with music box and dancers. All of them are oiled basically the same. We're going to go through this evening, and we'll give you an idea of where the oil points are, and should give you a good idea how to get your clock ready to go. I'll show you this evening how to locate all of your oil points and your grease points. Grease is only used sparingly on the Cuckoo Clock. It doesn't require much. So if you bought our kits, you will have the oilers and you'll have the grease and everything to do these clocks with. We're finding more and more people are adventuring into Cuckoo Clocks. They're buying them everywhere. You can find them on flea markets and rummage sales. You can find them on eBay, of course, and used ones, and they're kind of fun to buy. If you're lucky. But they're not that hard to fix unless you get into the really complex ones, such as this fella here. Now this has got the music box up above the music dancers. This is the platform that handles the dancers, and this one's complex, but even it can be cleaned by the homeowner if they just want to take the time to go through the videos. So let's without further ado get into a little bit here. So this is the back of the clock here, and these are where your bellows operate off of. This is the hammer that runs your little gong, and then the two levers here are for the bellows. And then there's wires, of course, connected to these right here, and they go up to the bellows. So first of all, wherever there's a gear, and you can see all the gears down inside here, all those have a pivot coming through the plate, and you can see the little pivots. Here's one I'm pointing to. And if you look there, you can see just a little bitty well around on the inside of this. That's where the oil goes. And these wells keep the oil from running out and drooling down your plate because once it does that, then it just collects nothing but dirt or the particles of dust that are in the air. And it just gums up your clock. So the least amount of oil you can use is that if you see the oil, you've got just too much. So we have little oil cleaners that you can, oil extractors we call them, and you can pick out the oil around the outside edge with a little bit of alcohol. Now people have wondered, can you use brushes and Dove dishwater soap and ammonia? No, don't use those. You can use mineral spirits, which is, I think, the best. Dove clean soap and Dove washing soap and ammonia and all this is in brushes, and you don't need all that, and I don't recommend that you use it. That's my opinion only. The mineral spirits works really good. A quart can runs around $7 to $10, and it can be used for a lot of other things after you're done cleaning your clock. So you want to be careful not to contaminate the mineral spirits until you're finished with your clock. You can use a paintbrush and use the mineral spirits to brush the back of the clock, and some of the gears here can be used with a little, I would use maybe an artist brush that had strong bristles. But once again, unless all these gears in here are so caked with grease and so forth, and sometimes they are, then it's necessary to get those cogwheels cleaned. But otherwise, just use the cleaning sticks that come with your kit, and you dip the cleaning swabs in the mineral spirits, and you can wash out all these little pivots. And it's pretty easy to find. If there's a gear, there's a pivot, and they're all right in here, as you can see where I'm pointing. So to start with, it's the easiest to clean the back of the clock first, and then turn it over, and you'll have a little bit more problem because there's a lot of pieces here that are in way of all of the gears and pivots. But if you watch carefully, you can just about see every one of them. Wherever there's a gear, you're going to want to put a little dab of oil. And you have specially made oilers in our kits to do the job right. So there are a couple tricks you can do with, if you're going to do a lot of Cuckoo Clocks there, you're going to go buy them and clean them up, and for your own hobby, then you're going to have to probably buy one of these little fellas here, which we also sell. This is a oiler, and you can buy just the tube and the blunt oil tips, and put oil from your regular bottle, which would be like this one here. You can pour a little bit of your oil into these bottles. Now you can buy them empty or you can buy them full. And these are very nice for when you need to get down in here to the center shaft. You can easily oil this, or you can go from the inside. Let's see if we can get you. Yeah, there you go. You can go into the inside and oil them just as well. So the custom oilers that we have that you get in the kit will work. It's a little difficult to get them exactly where you want them and then drop the oil off. But so you can see where that spring is down in here. That's the center shaft, and you're going to have to apply oil right in. I'm going to have to see if I can get to it. You can go right straight down here and reach the oil. It's kind of a tough little fella to show you here, but when you get your Cuckoo Clock apart from your case, you'll be able to go right in here and see where your center shaft is, and you can deliver the oil with the oil feeder, the oilers. But it's a little difficult, and you're just going to have to take some time to do it. And you can use your swab if you accidentally get oil on your plate and wipe it off. So, well, let's go ahead and start. So we'll start on the back side first. So the first place we want to put oil is right here. The next one would be right here. Next one would be right here. The center shaft. Here's another oil. Here's another oil. Here's an oil. And you're going to have to go to the inside to get the paddle wheel, which is right there. You'll have to oil that from the inside. There's just no way to get to it from the outside. Now you can apply grease to these little paddles right here. There's one on this one, and there's one on this one here. Alright, as I lift this up, you can see these little, you can put just a little bit of grease right here. And you can see the next one. A little grease right there. So if you just follow your levers, you'll see a little place where you can grease them. And the amount of grease you want to use is just so tiny that it's almost not necessary to oil them, but or grease them. You just want a little dab, and that's all you need right there. And you just come in here and put a little bit of grease on that pin there. So the two levers and the hammer, you'll put grease on them. Hope I made that clear. Now you want to put regular oil here and here, here and here, and here and there. You want to put, now you see how this is going to set in the clock. When it sets in the clock, it's straight up and down. This is your bird hammer lever here. This is where the bird rests on the lever here on the top. So you can put grease right here and a little bit of grease right there. It doesn't do you any good to put oil on here, because the oil just runs right on down. Because when this sets in the clock, it sets up straight up and down. So you don't want to put any grease, you don't want to put any oil in these two slots here. Just put a little bit of grease. And you can take just about this much from your grease, and you can just put it right in there. Now just move it around, and you've got it done. Same in the bottom. In fact, this is probably enough right there. Right, now it's going to be real hard to see, so I'm going to, there's a cam sitting right here, and the very middle of that cam, we'll see if we can get this out of the way. Right here in the middle, you want to apply a little grease. Not very much. If you can see the grease is almost too much, you want to put just a little bit right here. Because this is the lever right here that rides in there. You can put, this is where the bird hinge works, right here. So I'm going to turn it in there. I'm going to pull it out, and this pin, or this rod, or lever, locks it. So you can put a little bit of grease right here. And that's all of the points, that's all the grease that you actually ever use on a Cuckoo Clock. So you can see a little canister of it like this that comes in your kits is probably going to grease 500 clocks. One of these will last a very long time. So, and the shelf life on them is, as far as I know, as long as you don't contaminate it, it will last forever. So now on the front, once again, you'll be able to see your oil wells, and wherever there's a pivot, you'll see these little pivots. Those all take oil. And this is the intermediate wheel, right below your snail on the center here. You don't need to put any oil in this. You can put a little bit of oil right here on the pivot. I'm sorry, on the gear shaft. Yeah, it's just. I'm going to show you a different clock here to help clarify where we're trying to oil at. But you can put a little bit of oil down here on the rack. That would be right in here. And you can put a little bit of oil on these levers right here and there. Now when I say a little, if you can see the oil, you put too much on there. We don't want the oil to run off the shafts. It's just a very tiny little bit. Now the final spot is where let's go back to the back. This is your pendulum rod or your leader. This is your pendulum verge. This is what runs the escape wheel, which is right in here. You can see the gears, the teeth in there. Right here. You can see this little gear I'm moving? That's your escape wheel. And you want to oil every third tooth, or about. You know, if you can get a dozen or a half a dozen of those teeth oiled, like every third one or every fourth one, that's plenty to go all. It'll collect on the pellet fork, and it'll oil all the teeth. So that's why you don't want to try and get too much oil on that. This is your pellet fork right here, and the escape wheel is just below it, and that's what you're going to oil every 4 tooth. See how I'm rolling this now? And you can just put a little bit every 4th tooth. You want to come up here and put a little bit. Now I'm using my finger, and I'm actually turning putting a little pressure on this with my finger, and that's what moves that. See how I'm moving it? So you can easily oil every 4th or 5th tooth right in that area. So it doesn't matter, as long as you get 5 or 6 of those teeth oiled, it will carry around and oil this every tooth. Now, here's the final thing. If you mess around with these too much, you're going to get this out of beat. And this is what puts your clock in beat. Now what is the beat? That's the even sound when you put that clock back in its case, and you put it up in the wall, and you put a level on the side of it, and you make sure it's nice and straight on your wall. That tick-tock has got to be even. It's going to be a tick, 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 tick. If it has a clunk to it, tick, clunk, tick, clunk, it's not going to run very long. It's going to quit. To correct the problem, you look at your clock on the wall, and you turn it one way or the other slightly. You just tilt it until you get a nice even sound. So if your clock is actually mounted on the wall and it has to be tilted, like if you're tilted at one side, you had to turn it to the other side, that's telling you that it's out of beat. If the beat is off, and you'll tell that by when you put the clock back together and put it in your case on the wall, and you level it so it's nice and straight up and down. If your cuckoo clock has a tick clunk instead of a tick 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 tick, you know, it's just a nice even sound. If it has a nice even sound, then your clock is in beat. This is one of the hardest things to do on a cuckoo clock. So it has to do with your pendulum leader and the verge. This is your verge right here. So this is where the pendulum hangs, and this here is the verge. This has the escape pellet fork on it. That's this little fellow right up in here that I'm messing with. So if it's off, you're going to have to either bend it. You're going to have to bend this back deal one way or the other. To do that, you're going to have to come back in here and hold it with a pair of tweezers. Now I can bend this rod. You see how I can bend that? Just slightly. Then put it back in the wall, make sure, and then listen for the sound. If it's nice and even, tick-tock, tick-tock, and you've got your escape wheel pellets. This is the pellet fork. It has to have an even swing on both sides. It's the easiest way I can tell you how to do that. But you'll have to take the verge itself, and actually somehow you can get a screwdriver right in here and lock it so that you can see how I've locked that now. I'm just using my finger, but that allows you to make a little bend on that, and it doesn't take much. So your beat has to be in tune. And there are a couple videos that I have on the YouTube channel that explain the sound of that tick-tock, and again how to set that beat. Now it's not the Cuckoo Clock, but it's the same principle. So your leader and your verge has to be in sync with each other. Hope that I've explained that. You know what? There's a comment at the bottom of every YouTube channel that we have, and I urge you, if you have questions, to use the comment. And what that does is that sends an email to us at our office there, and then we can try and go back and give you an answer for a comment. And that lets everybody see the comment, and other people may have the same problems, so that really helps solve the problems that way. If you just email us, then nobody else gets to hear what's going on. So I urge you to use the comment, and if you have a question that leads to something that we can answer, we will certainly get back to you on it by leaving a message or a reply in the comment. So now let's go ahead and finish up here. You want to use your oiler, and on these chain wheels there's a little ratchet right here. See if we can find one. Now there's a little spring here, which is actually the ratchet, and you can see it. It's right there, and there's one on both sides. So you want to put a little oil. Oops. You want to put a little bit of oil right there. And you go on the other side and do the same thing. Just put a little. You can probably put three little spots. Put a little bit of oil right here, and right there. And that will oil your chain ratchets, or your sprockets, I guess would be another word for that. So that's about it for oiling a Cuckoo Clock. And like I said, they're a little bit more complex than your everyday mantle clocks. These actually, I believe, are the hardest to oil. You'll understand why when you start taking one apart and seeing how to get to it. I don't recommend that you take these apart by pulling the snap rings and pulling these out, because then you're going to change the timing on them, and that will change whether it cuckoos right or doesn't cuckoo right at all. So best to leave that alone unless you understand how that snail works. That's a whole nother subject. So the 8-day clocks are done the same way. They're just a little bit bigger and a little easier to work on. If you have a music box, then you have a lot more levers and shafts, and oil has to go into these shafts here. So you want to put oil here, right here. Don't put any grease on these. Leave those alone. You do oil behind the shaft right in here. So I just lost one of my hammers. Hope I didn't lose them all. I did. Alright, so this is where those levers for your bellows go. There's a hammer here, a lever here, and a lever here, and you can see this one still here. So you'd put a little grease here, a little here, a little here, or oil. I would recommend oil on these. You can, once again, there's a little foot there. See that little foot? I will put right there. This is where you put a little bit of grease right there. Got all the parts loose, so I think I just lost a little piece here, but I'll put it back on. You can see that you can't get in between there. So it's just easier to use a long tube oiler like this, and you can get down underneath of this and oil it from the back side. That's your center shaft. Any of the levers can be oiled just by looking to see which ones actually move. You see that one there? So you can put a little oil here and right there. And this lever up above, you can oil it here, right here, right here, and right here. And you could actually put oil here, here, here. Oops. You could actually put oil right here, right here, right here, and right there. And that just about does it for the platform. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and we'll try and help you with them. So that about does it for a review on the Cuckoo Clocks. Thanks for watching. We always appreciate the comments and hope that we have helped you understand how to do your Cuckoo Clock. So thanks again and have a good evening. Thanks again, and we bid you a good evening. Thanks again, and we bid you a good evening.